But I think what we have to do is we have to figure out exactly, like I said, how to get people to understand that, wake up very quickly and get out of these positions. Because see, to me, I believe that, because I run into women like that too, that have never truly had love or gone on dates and all this other kind of stuff. You see it all over TikTok. And I kind of laugh because I think if if people found all the women that I've dated and they pulled them, like did a little interview after them, they were probably all the women might say, well, I didn't really like him, but he did take care of me, or we went on decent dates and I felt that it was good. And so I don't understand, like, and that's always been honestly one of my biggest problems being out here on the internet is that I've never understood why women stay. Why do you stay with a guy that won't treat you like this? And I know part of it is, like I say, the whole sexual energy. And I've even had conversations with a lot of different women in my group, outside of my group, even with some of the women that I've dated. And I don't think they quite understand it, but I just really don't believe women. I just be real. I think 50% of women just don't know how to pick men. And I really think it's really kind of a luck of the draw thing. And I had a long conversation with one woman about it. And she actually agreed. Well, actually, she was the person that schooled me on it. She was like, for most women, them getting married is luck.
Yeah. I,
And she was like, the right man comes at the right time, and we just kind of sync up because a lot of women, that sexual energy thing can be tampered with in so many ways from books, from movies, from television, from their first date or whatever, that it totally throws them off. And then they look at things totally different. And like I told you, one of the things that's always funny to me, and now give it back to you to talk about it. But I see it in my own experience. Like I said, I can't say what you experienced, but I see it in my own experience. And because I was married for such a long time, and I literally met my ex-wife on the first day of Tuskegee. First day at Tuskegee University, I met my ex-wife. So that was a wrap for me. So I wasn't going up to all these different women. But then when I got my divorce, now I'm coming out here, but I have the skills of an 18-year-old when it comes to talking to women, right? And so now, I have all these women trying to put me in this box. But then those that took a chance on me to date me, they're like, oh my gosh, you're like one of the best people I've ever dated.
Well,
And I'm like, yeah. And this is proven to me that y'all don't know how to pick men because you were thinking that you were doing me a favor, but then I'm the best thing you've ever dated, which shows that every man that you dated before me wasn't about nothing. So why did you pick those men in the past?
well, see, as I'm listening to you, that's deep, bro, right there. It the whole experimentation, I guess, with Western love and how we find love now. I mean, and maybe it is an experiment and it's a crapshoot because I'd almost want to get your take on this, where in terms of the history of man, right? Like this wasn't a decision that women made, right? Like there was more time spent where it was essentially arranged marriages, right? And I do think there's some wisdom, you know, in turning that over totally to older, more level-headed people, because to your point, like you're like, like it's real, like you said, right person, right time. Like, I yeah, it's a because most women, that are out here have a long history of picking wrong, and men too. Like we all just picking wrong. We all crapshooting it. You know what I mean? So I really don't. I think there's definitely some wisdom in allowing someone to really help you pick that has your best interest in mind and not all the emotions you have. Right? I don't know what's your thoughts on arranged marriages? I know maybe going left, but like I
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, that's a good topic. And I think that, it could go so many different ways. See, the problem I have with it, I think if you do arranged marriages, I'm gonna be real. I think you almost have to let people get married, real young, because anything that comes in that deters them or that changes, like I say, their sexual energy, they could end up in a situation where they just don't like the person. Because like I know for me, and I've talked a little bit about the types of women that I'm more interested in, because I'm a little bit more intellectual. So if I run into a woman that is anti-intellectual, right? And I have dated those women, and as crazy as it sounds, two of them actually worked in the dating process. But I'll admit, dating them felt more like you do your lane, I'm gonna do my lane. There wasn't really friendship there. It was just more of if we did come together, you would just be the wife and I would be the husband. There wouldn't really be friendship. It would just be we're just kind of hanging out. And then I've had other women that I've dated that the sexual attraction was so strong. Like literally, it was like, yo, you gotta go home now, or we gotta take two separate cars, because we might end up at the hotel. I mean, it was like that. It was so strong. Okay. And then you have other people that, yeah, I'm sitting across from them, or yeah, we're hanging out. And yes, they're attractive to me, and I might be attractive to them, but there's nothing there. It's absolutely nothing there. It's like, I don't want to fantasize about them. I don't want to think about them. I don't want to get close to them. And I can't even tell you why.
Right.
So I think that's why people, at least for me, I think that's why people went away from arranged marriages, because I think people would get in and then now at 25, they would see somebody else and be jealous of their relationship, because in that one, they just happen to work out. So now they're really good friends. They're really great sex. Everything's awesome. And then you have this other couple that the husband's just being the husband, the wife just being the wife, but they have no connection.
And I think and this is a great point because I've experienced all of that too, right? Like in terms of your dating experience there. It's almost like maybe the best of both worlds, right? Because no system's perfect. Arranged marriages isn't perfect. Our modern fun and love isn't perfect, right? So how do we best mirror it, right? And a little bit of my own personal story. My wife and I, like I said, we met. She was at a church. You know, I later joined that church once we started becoming more serious, right? But we both kind of, went under our pastoral leadership to help guide us through it, right? Right. So he established y'all like each other. Unlike, these whole premarital classes some churches and stuff do. I think there's some wisdom in those, but people can hide in groups. You know what I mean? So a lot of his oversight was more personal. We was able to see him and his wife in different, situations. He was able to give us wisdom. And really he slowed us down, right? Like we didn't get married till like 2, 3 years later, right? After I proposed to her, right? So I come out of that kind of saying like, man, hold on. What is it out of arranged marriages that work? You had two people, you had parents who aren't as emotional. It's more of a transaction. A lot of it was financial. They didn't really get into the mechanics, but when they presented their child, whether it was a family presenting their daughter, right, or a family presenting their son, they both were prepared to be husbands and wives, right? And then the man was buttoned up because he couldn't even get this woman without having money, his family at least. You know what I mean? So all of those, so there's some principles there. But to your point, there could also be some awkward pairings that don't take compatibility into account, right? Right. Then on the other spectrum, you have the fond in love where there's no oversight at all on the important things, right? Like, so you don't know how prepared this man is to be a husband. You don't know how prepared this woman is to be a wife. You don't know how, you may be compatible. There may be a physical compatibility you might find. Hopefully you get past that and into some intellectual and all of that. right? But because of all that important stuff that the arranged marriage is left out, on the other end of finding love, you got issues. So it's like, and these are some of the things I think about, even as a writer to try to create stories and different dynamics. But I often like to test theories, right? Like I may present a character. I don't believe what this character is doing, but I want to create a character that really believes it. You know what I'm saying? So I like to like test the boundaries and just really play with different paradigms, man. Because I mean, no one had like as I said, I always commend you on that. No one has the answer, right? But yeah, I definitely think there's pros and cons to both. And I think arranged marriages gets totally dismissed. And like I said, there's some wisdom in some of that, right? But yeah, we definitely. Now here's the other point you brought up too, right? That there's a different other dynamic, right? And I think I saw a video on Jamal Bryant. He brought this up, like, but all single people aren't created equal, right? A 23-year-old man who I talked to in my church who may desire to have a wife ain't the same as you who's divorced. Y'all two different kind of singles. You know what I'm saying? Like two different kind of expectations if we're gonna be all the way real. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't experienced what you've experienced. So we almost can't talk to y'all the same. You know what I'm saying? In some areas we can, but some of the advice I give him wouldn't apply to you. You know what I mean? I got to have a more mature conversation. May even need to have a little bit more grace. You know what I'm saying? Like how I look like telling, you know what I'm saying? Like a woman who was married 15 years, who made, you know what I'm saying, who it was ready whenever she wanted it. Now she out here single. She may slip a lot more than this 23-year-old girl who a virgin. You know what I'm saying? And it like so it's we gotta deal with these. It's not one size fit all. Like the wisdom of the word is the same, right? But I just think there needs to be grace in how we handle the single landscape because it does look different. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, but see, I think that's why there's so many problems within, I'll be honest with you, within the Christian community. Like, one of the things that I think comes up, and I just go ahead and throw it out there, people might, like I said, be hating on me in the comments for it, but it is what it is. I think one of the main problems that we have is like with masturbation. And I don't expect a woman over 35 years old who's had at least three sex partners, honestly, not to masturbate. I'm sorry, but no.
how much she do, how much scripture she know it don't matter.
Yeah, it don't matter. And I'll be honest, it's like I told people before, I dated one lady, I think she was a prophetess. I dated another woman who literally was a pastor. She was a pastor of her own church. I've dated a lot of women in the Christian faith because I've tried to, find them. And there's a lot of ministers and different things like that. And like I said, all these, choir leaders and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm telling you straight up, sex came up every single time. It wasn't necessarily that they were rushing me into the bedroom, but we definitely had a lot of serious conversations. And I think that people are not being realistic when they are looking at a 35-year-old and basically beating them up to the point of saying, okay, you're going to hell, if you're masturbating. Okay, when a woman doesn't recognize that as she gets closer to 50, her sex drive is actually increasing. It's not decreasing, it's increasing. And I try to let people know that a woman at 50 years old is the equivalent of a male at 20 years old. And you know doggone well that you ain't got one friend that was 20 years old that wasn't masturbating, okay? Unless he had a woman that he was able to go over her house every other day, okay, he was doing it. And we beat women up. And there was actually a woman,
In the P, Bob was doing it. Like you wake up. Like, yeah, it's that.
yeah, I mean, I was the thing. I mean, you do it 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, what you talking about? It was like a muscle. The more you did it, the more you want. But I mean, I think one of the issues was this lady, she's out there and she makes this video and she makes it because she's been abstinent and then she fell into masturbation. and she's just beating herself up, talking about how unworthy she is and how God hates her and all this other kind of stuff. Okay, because she fell back into masturbation after, being 100% not doing anything for like 2 years or whatever it is. And that's one of the main reasons, believe it or not, that I created Christian Singles Connect and even the channel the way that I did, because I don't try to beat people up based off of what they believe or don't believe. Instead, what I try to focus on is, why aren't you getting married in the first place? And there was actually a big situation that happened over at Christian Singles Connect. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but where some people were very upset because I would talk like this. Because the way I saw it is straight up. The issue among Black people and the issue among Christians, as crazy as it sounds, is not a sexual issue. That to me is what pastors push because they're very concerned about their congregation having sex. Okay. And they're trying to cap it. But that's not really the issue. The issue is because if that was the issue, then the first lady and the pastor would have never gotten married. I've only been under, I think, one or two pastors in my entire life. And even when I've talked to other people that they've been under, where, not trying to be vulgar on the channel, but where the pastor, bishop, whatever you want to call him, apostle, evangelist, wasn't having sex with the first lady before they got married.
Wow.
Okay, I only know two examples where that didn't happen. Everybody else has gotten in front of the congregation. My pastor now, he's gotten in front of the congregation and he said, yes, me and the first lady had sex, but that's not what I want y'all to do. But yeah, we did. Where you're at. But here's it. Yeah, but see, here's the problem. If sex was the issue, they would have never gotten married. The issue is Black men and Black women and a lot of Christians, they don't know how to be husbands or wives.
Therefore,
Because if you're a husband and you meet a wife, or if you're a wife and you meet a husband, even if you have sex, you'll still get married.
right.
But if you're a husband and you meet a girlfriend, you're not going to get married because he's not going to marry you. And if you're a wife and you meet a boyfriend, he's not going to marry you. And so that to me is where we need to be putting our focus. I'm still telling people, don't have sex because that's going to mess you up with all these soul ties. But what I want to focus in on is like, okay, let's get to the real problem, not the pain.
And see, what's deep about that, right? So, it's hard, right? Because, like I said, when you get out into the Christian landscape, right, like there's this overemphasis on purity, and like you said, maybe an emphasis on just sex, period, right? Where people really do think if you don't do this, it's gonna equate to success in your marriage, right? Which, to the point you're making, right? If a husband and a girlfriend get together and they don't have if a husband and a wife get together and they have sex and they get married, whether they know Jesus or not, they might be together for 30 years, right? Because they just know how to work well. But if a husband and a girlfriend get together, they know Jesus, but she a girlfriend, they cannot have sex before marriage and get a divorce. You know what I'm saying? You looking at it, how did that happen? Y'all did everything right, technically by the book and the letter of the law, but like how come y'all didn't work? And it's why I try to tell them, it's like, to your point, I'm gonna stick by the scripture. The scripture says it prohibits that, right? But if you're trying to be married, right, just not doing that is not preparing you for being married. You know what I'm saying? Like, and hard. It's hard because so that's the emphasis, right, of preparation in Christian sets. Like, that's the focus. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Get accountability partners. Read all the scriptures 10 times and say, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't touch yourself. And it's better not to marry to burn. As soon as you find her, rush down the aisle. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, instead of focusing on the details of what it means. Because my wife been kinda schooling me on that. She's like, "Yeah," like and she apparently it's something that a lot of married women talk a lot about where, like, yeah, a lot of married women that they're married to men that are great fathers but terrible husbands. I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't even" like, to me, I had to double take, like, "What are you talking like, that don't even make sense to me." You know what I mean? Explain unpack that more. But, like, apparently, like, it's a real phenomenon that, like, men, we're gonna love our kids, you know what I mean? Contrary to popular belief, like, black men are some of the greatest fathers. We're present, we're active, you know what I'm saying? We're like, so we're great with our kids, but that doesn't necessarily translate into you relationally being a good, a husband, right? So if that's a gap, and women are like, I messed around and got into one of these, Facebook married people's group, and I was like, I'll be honest, Jay, I was like, man, this depressing. You know what I'm saying? Feel like hearing problems. Like then like people was getting on there announcing divorces. I was like, man, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this wasn't the experience I was expecting to fellowship with married couples online. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but I think some of it speaks to us not, really getting the training, the practice, or not necessarily practice, but just the training or the mentorship from husbands helping other men to be better husbands, and then wives helping younger wives to be wives, right? Like there's definitely a disconnect. And like I said, to your point, because there's this overemphasis on sex, like we're we're not paying attention to the stuff that really, prepares that really matter. Yeah. So it's hard. That's why I say I appreciate your platform. I think as a writer and a storyteller, I hope to explore it and entertain people, right? But I want to explore this, man. Like art, like you said, I've been in church now over 20 years. You start talking to married people, like me and my wife, we didn't have sex. You know what I'm saying? I don't even like to wear that like some badge, like it's something like that. You know what I'm saying? But you got people that are in great marriages and they have sex. Like them, like like, yeah, the Bible prohibits it, but guess what? They in church now. They love God, and they here. So what am I gonna say? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the path that God led them on, right? Like so, and it doesn't discredit what the word says, right? But it also does show, you know what I'm saying, that, like many of the people, like, I was talking to a writer friend of mine, like, that's why I love the word, man, is that, you know, the Bible explains a man who was after God's own heart. This was the man God was rocking with. That's my guy. When the Savior comes back, he's gonna sit on his throne. Like you would think that that person would be perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the person that God is rocking with. This is the person that God says I approve of. That this is the man he became a leader, and God said, "My son, who's perfect, is gonna sit on his throne." You would think that God would be perfect. But it's the exact opposite. David had all kind of drama from when we see him to the end with his kids, everything, all the kid. Yeah, David was full of drama, right? But God wasn't looking at David being perfect, right? That's not what God was focused in on. And I think a lot of what Christianity is now is us trying to so adore to the principles that we're not real. We can't even have these conversations without people thinking we don't even believe God or we don't believe the scripture. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's difficult for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always been a problem for me because it's like I think I kind of equated like when you were saying that I thought of an example because I kind of equated like if you look at a car and you tell somebody not to drive their car, without the seatbelt. The law tells you to put on your seatbelt, right? But you could technically drive your car even if you don't put your
Right.
seatbelt on. Technically, the car will still drive. Now you might get pulled over, you might not get pulled over, you might go 5 years never wearing a seatbelt, never get pulled over. Okay. But what if you in America decide that you are going to drive on the left, in the left lane, in full left lane, way on the other side of the street, not on the right hand side, but on the left hand side. Okay. And you're going through and you believe this is what you're supposed to do, but you got your seatbelt on. but you all over there weaving back and forth between oncoming traffic, okay? And you think you're doing something. And see, to me, that's the equivalent of a lot of people. They got their seatbelt on, but they don't recognize that they're driving on the wrong
Yeah.
side of the street. And the downside of it is when you talk to them, there's so much pain in their heart that once you start to talk into it, they get mad at you.
Right.
Because they don't recognize they've been walking as a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and they want the other side to change first. And that's one of the things that I always look at to tell whether it's not somebody's a girlfriend or boyfriend energy. You're always looking for the other side to change first. When I date a woman, she does not have to show me what's in, her proverbial hand, her cards, okay, until like the second or third date. All she has to do is be a generally nice person. And that's enough to get her 2 or 3 days. Okay, so she don't have to show any cards. There's a lot of men that are like, no, if I don't know this, if I don't know this, if I don't blah, 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 and they try to hurry up and get that information out because they're walking in fear. They're walking in anger. They're walking in frustration. And there's a lot of women that do that too. They come and quiz the man with 100 questions and all this other kind of stuff because they're afraid. They don't want to waste time. And I'm trying to hurry up and find my husband and all this other kind of stuff. Where if you're walking in wife's energy, all right, as soon as that husband pops up, you're going to know it and it's going to be done. But if you meet a husband while you're walking in girlfriend energy, and I've had those conversations where a woman is sitting across from me and she's doing all type of grilling to me. And then the next day, I don't give her no call. I don't text her. It's a ghost, or I might text her and say, hey, I appreciate you going out with me, but I don't think we're a match. And so now she's frustrated, okay, when she had a husband quality man in front of her. But because she was walking in wife energy on that date, I mean, not wife energy, but girlfriend energy on that date, it's a wrap. Because that's one thing I've learned about men that walk in husband energy. They don't play games with you. You as a woman, you got to step up quick. And that's one of the things that I wish I could get more, especially women, because I to your point, which we started this conversation, there are more women in the church than men. So when you as a woman have the opportunity to sit across the table or at Starbucks or wherever it is and have a conversation with a marriage-minded Christian man that you find at least halfway attractive, okay, you need to be on your game. It doesn't matter how you feel. This is just the first 1 or 2 dates. I'm not saying you got to bend over backwards. You ain't got to cook this man a meal. You ain't got to do nothing. Just be nice, be cordial, and recognize that he just might be your husband. But if you come to that man with the wrong energy, you'll never see him again. And now you're thrown right back in that pile with everybody else. And I don't think a lot of women really quite understand that. And that's why I'm always saying, like, the 90-day thing is really for both men and women to really analyze the other side. And I know for some people, they don't like 90 days. I've had so many women look at me crazy because I'm trying to push 90 days. I literally had a woman try to move in with me on I think the second or third week. She knew me. Like, what? Well, I mean, like this happened. Like, I think she had never ran into a man that treated her like I treated her. So she like, oh, this is it. This is my husband right here. This is one I've been praying for. And so she was trying to, literally almost like move in. But I was just like, no. But see, that's the whole thing. You get that opportunity, make the most of the opportunity, but then also open that opportunity. Like you were talking about earlier. Me being in my 40s and then somebody else being in their 20s, there is 2 totally different single worlds. But then, like, I talk a little bit about, dating older, dating younger, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not encouraging women to date men 20 and 30 years older than them. But I will say, if you got a man in front of you that can do everything that you want and he can be that husband for you, even though you might be in a more of a Ruth Boaz situation where he might almost be a generation older than you got to think in your head, is it better for me to wait or is it better for me to take what I got now? And you got to make that decision. You got to figure that
Oh,
out.
shoot, man, it's rough out here. Wow, yeah, no, you're right, and when you're right, but listen, it's, when you start actually really looking at the numbers, like, I mean, you know, and I saw the article the video you posted today with that article, and you know how French men run from men when they're in the church. Yeah, bit extreme. I don't know if I go there, but like you are narrowing your potential choices, right? Not only for like men that aren't saved, but then men that are saved. But 9 times out of 10, you're attending a place like 9 times out of 10 is probably not going to be your home church, right? Like it's just reality. You know what I'm saying? And then how are you gonna fix that? Right? So to your point, when you do get an opportunity, you gotta be on your game. Like, cause you ain't, it ain't it's like fishing, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen, you ain't gonna get too many cracks at there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's I mean, see, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so no, that's very, very interesting, man. But like I said, I do appreciate your platform for really talking this practically. Like I don't like there's nobody really talking this practically about it in church. Like it's real, like it's all sermon, roof boy. Like, no, practically. Now he's in front of you. Now she's in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Who's doing like it's really I mean, you get what I'm saying? Like it's not too and it's dangerous, right? Because here I was an unsaved man, I become saved, and that conversation is not happening over the pulpit. It's and I talk a lot. I've been talking a lot on threads on how married Christians. I think we do single Christians a disservice, right? Like I don't know if we're all the way real. So part of my, you know, this storytelling platform, part of the column pieces I'm going to be writing, is being a lot more transparent. Like I said, you've kind of encouraged me to do that. But I think in church, like there's just pretentiousness of it. Like I said, so I went through like no one taught me how dating would look with my wife. We was left to do it however, you know what I'm saying? Like those details are not being filled in at church. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then like I said, there's a flip end where it could just be all the way bad. And then there's the other on the surface spiritual, but can be potentially dangerous too. This whole ultra purity, like if you go out on a date, you got to have an accountability partner. Now it's three of us, or whenever we go out, it's double date. Like situations that's not even realistic practically. You know what I mean? Like where because at some point, like you need to marry a Christian person that you and we could be alone and nothing's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's this image of grown people, and like I said, some of that advice is offensive, right? Maybe you can get away with telling the 24-year-old that, like if you're gonna go out with her, you better have somebody else double date or have a third person. But how I look like telling a 40-year-old man that's been married that? That's you know what I'm saying? Like that's offensive. Like that. Like it's two different kind of conversations, and like so somewhere somewhere in the church we gotta start having very real conversations about what it really means to date. And that's why I say, man, I applaud your platform. I need it to inform the stories because you know I'm an edgy writer, right? So like you said, sweet romance or I've been talking to a lot of people saying Christian romance, and I'm almost a little hesitant, right? Because I'm like, yeah, mine may get a little edgy and it may rub y'all the wrong way, but I'm about transparency. I want the stories to be real. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a little of it, but I want it to be real. Go ahead. Well, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. No, no, I was just agreeing with you. I was just straight agreeing with you. I mean, because I think that we need my thing with art is art needs to be art. You know what I'm saying? You are the writer. You have to move in that art the way you see fit. And I think we need different types. We need some of it a little bit more edgy. We might need something that's a little bit more like a gospel play. We might need something that's a little bit more like something else. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you do, and I'm so excited that you can put this out here because I feel like so many black women, especially, will get something out of it if they, choose, to start reading it because a lot of, like I say, to me, and what I've noticed is that a lot of people, like I say, their sexual desire comes from what they've experienced or what they've seen. And it was like, it's like I could do so many examples, but I know as a writer, you know what I'm talking about. Like if you decided in one of your stories that the lead female character was going to fall in love with the gardener, right? So she's going to fall in love with the gardener. And there might be all these women right now, even watching the video, they're like, I would never fall in love with a gardener. I would never think a gardener's sexy and all this other kind of stuff. But then when you're describing them, in the thing, you say, whatever her name is, Shaniqua is sitting there drinking her wine, looking over the top of the glass. And then the gardener's out there and the sweat's dripping down his body and he don't have a shirt on and all this other kind of sensual stuff. And before you know it, Cerise, licks her lips as she looks at him and watches his body move as he's pushing this lawnmower. Now, all of a sudden, a woman that said, I would never date a doggone, or somebody that works on the yard, a gardener, has the image of sexuality mixed with the gardener. And now she can see, wow, this guy can be sexy. And the main reason why I think so many black women get confused more so than any other race is because our literal media encourages black women to go after gangsters, thugs, baby daddies, the Pookies, and the Ray Rays. We don't have a lot of distinguished black men that stand by their family, that try to do the right thing. We don't have a lot of stories about it. They're rarely ever seen.
And to your point, and I'm big on I talk about this a lot too, of just the power of media, right? It's like and why I get so passionate about it, right? Like media has always art has always been important in culture, right? It shapes culture. Artists from Picasso to Gordon Parks, who had like artists have always, whether it's sculpture, photography, film, TV, it's always played a part. And you want to find out about a culture, go look at their art, right? And then you couple that with you talked about media, the power of media, right? You look at governments when, governments overthrow nations. The first thing they want to take control of is they want that military. We took this country. We got to take the threat away from them coming back at us. We season your military. What's the next thing? Media. You know what I'm saying? Like we need to control the information that's going out, right? So it sometimes that translates directly to the news media, but the power of other forms like film and stories, right? Like books, all of that is also in media that we tend to neglect. And to your point, we need balance. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you need it's okay for because on the white side, they'll have the bad boy story, but he's not the dominant story. Like he's not the dominant, hour of attention for women, right? But to your point, our imagery is the opposite, right? And like I almost like to write characters that are just regular people. You know what I'm saying? Like, like he may have all the edge of a bad boy, whatever, or be interesting, have a backbone, but he's just a regular guy because we need to see that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't he doesn't have to be a high end lawyer or an athlete or you know what I mean, a mega pastor that's wealthy. Those stories are great, but then what about the dude that just worked customer service? You know what I'm saying? Or the dude that's just a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Or the girl that's just an accountant, right? Like just normal, regular people. I think media, we need to get that out. And then in terms of Christians, like a lot of that gap, like I'm hoping the stories I tell, really are kind of like accompany platforms like yours. right? Where like again, when we first met, I joked that I compared you to another kind of I guess secular dating coach videos that I came across, right? And I was amazed. I'm like, dang, he's like the Christian version of this dude. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, we need that too. We need like folks giving very practical advice because again, it's not happening as crazy as it sounds. Cause folks be like, nah, he up there preaching the word. Yeah, but like we need people to make it more applicable, right? You know what I mean? Like they need models to see. They need people to bounce. Like, man, I'm going on a date with her. I'm going on a date with him. What should I do? Like, we really that all of that gets lost. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, you as a single man, you could get in front of a girl who's a prophetess at her church. She know the words. She done became a leader at her church, and she sit down in front of you, but she a girlfriend. Like how like that's not even supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like how that like you got the word of God. You're in a community of faith, and no and the scripture says the older women are supposed to be instructing the younger women. Like how you show up and you not white, you're like, how you show up like this? Like, how you show up like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not supposed to happen, but it's happening because, like, a lot of like so much emphasis is on the Sunday service and not on real community life and real discipleship and mentorship, uh, mentoring people into being husbands and wives, right? So I said, all right.